Okay, thanks for joining me today, guys. We are going to be looking over ProLine's business reports and just discussing that. And if you guys have questions, we'll go over that. Um, but we recently, uh, in line with launching our invoicing and payments functionality, we did a little overhaul of the business reports and how they work. And we're just going to keep making these better over time. Part of the next round of improvements is going to be adding some visual graphs to these so that you have some other breakdowns other than just the numbers. But this is where we're at right now. So to get to your business reports, you would go up into the menu in the upper left, then go to business reports, and then you have four different reports here that you can choose from. Marketing being the first one, then sales, cash flow, and activity. Activity is just outgoing incoming calls, outgoing incoming texts. But you can track if you have somebody, if you have someone on your team that is that you want to keep track of their activity. So maybe an inside rep, sales rep or something. You want to track how many times are they outbound dialing or how many texts are they sending. This is an easy way to do that. Coming back to marketing, these are the three main reports that you're going to be really paying attention to. The first one is going to be your marketing tab. So here at the top, you have a lot of different things that you can select from to filter out what data is being displayed here on your marketing report. The most important one is probably going to be lead source. So we just added our full lead source functionality, which I think I went over that last week. I believe all the last couple weeks have been crazy, but with the lead source, you can select the lead source you want to see a report for. So, for example, select website, or if you want to select more than one, you can even select more than one. View report, and then because this demo doesn't really have a lot selected. Let me see. Maybe if we just do meta ads. Oh, we're also looking at a different start and end dates. So what we need to look at is, let me see what this is saved as. So we'll make sure this is website here, just to make sure we have something. We'll do a couple like that. Now, normally lead source is going to get assigned as it's coming into ProLine through whatever way you've integrated the lead source into ProLine, but you can also change it manually. So if we go back to business reports, let's bring this date way back just to make sure we're pulling in that or those projects. Okay, so there we go. So there was actually some other projects that already had that as well, which is why I was trying that before. But what you can see here is you have the total number of leads. So this is the number of leads that so there is two numbers here, and they can be a little bit confusing. Total leads is going to be for this period. This is the number of leads that have a lead status, um, whereas this is the leads that became leads during the selected period. And so it's easiest to understand this with a couple of examples. So example one is you have a lead that comes in, but then they get scheduled for an appointment and they get an estimate. Now they're no longer a lead. They're an open project. So they've moved out of being a lead to now an open project. They have an estimate. So they're no longer a lead. That number of this number down here of total leads, these are the number of projects that are still leads as of the end date here of this window. This is the number that are still leads today. So they're still in that lead status. They never got an estimate, never moved out of leads. Whereas this number right here, the new leads, which is the most important number here, is the number of leads that were collected during the period, regardless of where they are now. So out of these five, the way to understand this five and this three is we collected 5 leads during the period, but only 3 of those leads are still leads. 2 of them moved on and became either open or jobs. They were sold. Something else happened to them, so they're no longer in our pool of leads, but they became leads during the period. I know that's a little bit confusing. So we want to make these labels better. If you have suggestions on how to make these labels better, and then also kind of have a little bit more of an explanation here on the corner of each one. But the main number to look at here on the marketing report is going to be the new leads, because this is going to tell you for this period, the start between this start and end date, we got X number of leads. So if that's what you want to know, that's what this number is communicating. Then here you can see, based on the payments that have been entered into ProLine and or collected through ProLine, how much was our actual revenue per lead? How much money did we collect per lead? So this is really valuable for tracking how much money you're actually getting from a lead source and how much on average you're collecting for a lead source, and making decisions around marketing. Then we have new converted. So new converted is going to be the number of these new leads that were converted into open or sold. They moved out of being a lead. They're no longer in lead status. They're now something else. So so actually this makes it a little easier to understand this, because this new leads minus the converted is what you're going to have left here as total leads. 3 of them stayed as leads, 2 of them were converted. And then we have conversion rate. So this top row is really like the most important one here. So we collected 5 total leads. We made this much, we collected this much money per lead. 2 of them converted into at least an open opportunity, a project with an open status, which is a 40% conversion rate. Two being 40% of 5. So that gives us the 40% conversion rate. So this conversion rate is going to tell you how good are we at taking a new lead that we collect from a lead source and turning it into at least an open opportunity for us to sell. Like we are doing an inspection, giving an estimate, and so at least open, that might be closed, but we look at on the sales tab is where we track actually the close rate and stuff like this. We're just worried on the marketing report, how good are we at taking in new leads and turning them into actual opportunities? And so that's what that's doing there. Lastly, and again, like these 2 at the bottom are going to be a little bit confusing, but we have total leads. This is as of today. 3 of these 5 are still leads. We failed to convert them. So it's what is left over here. And then converted in period, this is the number of leads that match all of this that became open during the period, even if they didn't become leads during the period. I know it's a little bit confusing, but this is mostly going to coincide with how many estimates you put out during the period. So between these dates, we in this demo account we converted 3 leads into opportunities by presumably sending them invoices, or sending them estimates, or sending them quotes. And the reason this doesn't match up with the 2 is because one of these was probably a lead that was collected before the period. So these numbers down here are a little odd, and we want to try to be better at like communicating what these are. But why they're useful. I mean, I know the reason that we included them. The reason we included total leads is because it's valuable to be able to look back on like last year. If you want to look at 2023, we failed to convert 50 leads. That's a good, valuable thing to know, is like of the leads that we brought in last year, we have 50 that we never did anything with. So let's see if we can track those down, and there's ways to collect them in these other like all projects and all contacts. Let's track those down and maybe run a campaign to them, right? That's what's valuable to know with this. And then converted in period, it's just valuable to know, oh, we converted X number of leads in 2023. In 2023, we were able to convert 500 leads total into opportunities. So, all right. So that is the marketing. There's other things you can filter down into on here, including zip codes. So you can look at specific zip codes of projects in your account, specific team members, if you want to look at the metrics for specific people, locations, categories, types, services, lots of ways to drill down into this if you want to look at specific areas of the business. So let's move on to sales. So sales is, of course, this is where we're tracking our close rate. So let's pull this back so we can actually pull in some data here. Your report. So similarly to the marketing dashboard, we have one in period. This is going to tell us how many sales we had during this period of time. And so we sold 25 jobs. You want to know how many jobs did we sell during X period of time? That's this number right here. The total contract value of those one jobs is what you have here. And the contract value is not how much money you collected, but it's specifically the value of the signed / approved quotes that you sent from ProLine out to these projects. So it's totaling all of that up. You had X amount of revenue that was contracted with you through quotes. One revenue is the actual collected revenue that came in as payments for these projects. So ideally, like in this case, in this demo, but it's really just sample data, but ideally this one revenue is always going to equal the contract value. The reasons why it wouldn't equal the contract value are either A, because payments are not being tracked. So you collected money that you didn't put into ProLine. Maybe you got a check or cash and forgot to put a payment in for that. Or there was some reason that you gave an additional discount that was lower than the quoted value. So if you break someone's flower pot, you give them $100 off their quote, that is going to cause your actual one revenue to be less than your one contract value. Then we have gross profit. This is based off the final budget for projects. So this is the amount of gross profit that you made on these projects. And then you have the average revenue and average gross profit, which are just valuable things to know. On average, we make X amount of gross profit per job. It's just a valuable number to have in the back of your head. And then average revenue, this average revenue collected per job. This demo account does some really, really large jobs, apparently. So we have gross profit margin, 36.79. So this is also, all of this is coming off the budget, the information from the budget tab, specifically the final budget, not the planning budget. Then we have open opportunities. So this is, again, down in this last row is where things get a little weird. So we have open opportunities. These are the total for looking back at this period. These are the total number of projects that are still open. So if you want to look back at 2023 and you want to know how many of the projects that we sent out quotes for in 2023 still haven't closed. We don't know. We never got a yes and we never got a no. They're still open. That's what this number is going to be. So this is the number of opportunities that are still open as of today that were that became open during this period. Whereas new opportunities is the total number of opportunities that became open during the period, regardless of where they're at now. So 62 projects jobs became open. We closed 25 of those. So that's what new opportunity one is. So 25 of the 62 got closed, which gives us a roughly 40% close rate. So this is how we're calculating close rate. We're looking at the total number that became open during the period. We're also looking at the total number that we won during the period, and we're using those two numbers to generate our close rate for that period. And so it's important to understand the differences between these and what each piece, the purpose of each piece. So all of this right here, these three, are being used to calculate our close rate, which is a really valuable number to know. But the open opportunities here, it can be confusing because you're like, what is this 19? But this is for a different purpose entirely. This is telling us that we have 19 projects that we never got a yes or no from. And so that's a good opportunity to maybe do a rehash or just make sure they're still in follow-up or figure out what's going on with those. All right. And then over to cash flow, this is specifically looking at payments. So if we run this, we'll go back, make sure we have stuff here. So we have total number of payments that came in. So this is the revenue we collected. This is going to be the net revenue is ideally again going to equal your total payments. However, this net revenue is also going to deduct things like your merchant fees, and well, it will almost never be exactly the total payments. It will always be less than your total payments because it's going to deduct merchant fees, any chargebacks that occurred, and any refunds that you ran through ProLine. So this is your actual money that hits your bank account is the way to think about this. The net revenue is the actual money that hit the bank account. The total payments is if you add up the actual totals of all the payments that people paid you. So this is what people paid you. This is what actually hit the bank account. And the difference is going to be merchant fees, chargebacks, and refunds. So hopefully will not be a very big difference, but there will be a difference, and net revenue is going to be slightly smaller. Then we look at open quotes. So just like on the sales report, we had open opportunities. This is the number of open opportunities we still have at the as of right now for the period. We have a similar metric here for open quotes. So this is telling us how many quotes do we have open that we never had yes or no on, and what is the value of those? So this is telling us we have 24 grand in open quotes that we never got a yes or no in. They're just floating out there. So it's really the same metric as here. It's just looking at it from the quoted value point of view rather than the total number. And then we have quotes sent. So during the period, we sent out this many quotes. And then we have quotes approved. And this is the actual approved / signed quotes, the value of our signed quotes. And then we have accounts receivable. Accounts receivable is the invoices that we have outstanding. So this is invoices, things that have been invoiced that haven't yet been paid. And so that's another valuable metric to know. Now, quotes sent and quotes approved is interesting. You might look at this and be like, how is quotes approved higher than quotes sent? How do you send a number, but then your actual quotes are higher? The reason for that is because quote sent is always going to be the minimal possible value of those quotes. So if you have 3 options on a quote and some upgrades, this is the value of the quotes that were sent, assuming that every single person is choosing the smallest option on the quote and is using no upgrades. So your quotes approved will almost always be higher than your quotes sent, just simply because some of those people are going to choose either more expensive options and or add-ons, upgrades on your quotes. And so that's going to lead to your quotes approved usually being higher than your quotes sent. Well, sorry. That is correct if all of your quotes are being signed, which in the demo account they are. But that's yeah. So completely forget what I just said. It will be substantially less because if you send out quotes, it's going to be based on your close rate. So if you're closing 40% of your projects, then this is going to be 40% of this, but it will still be a little bit higher than just 40% of this because of those upgrades and additional options. It's kind of the math. The math is a little funky. And then accounts receivable, as we went over, is the open invoices. All right. Okay. So I know that was a lot, and some of this can be confusing. Let's talk about questions. What questions do you guys have?
Okay, I've got one. So if you look at the new converted button there, it says 2. Will we be able to chase those down? Like if we click on that button, can it show us those 2 jobs so we can go back to see who likes meta ads, maybe to a specific neighborhood or campaign that we ran, and we can know that that was effective to get those 2 leads or those 2 converted jobs?
2 actually converted.
Yeah.
Not right, not right now, but that would be the next step here is to be able to click on that and actually see who those people were. Right
Yeah, it was
now,
like
we're
the
just
Yeah, that
Say
was like
what?
the first thing I thought of was 5 new leads. So let's say who they are and click on, five, and it would show us a list of the 5 jobs. So you could, kind of work backwards there. But
We had I I dropped this when I redid this last time, because it was, I didn't want it to be confusing for specifically this reason.
mm,
But I had it where it was showing, it would show 5 here and it would show 5 projects here, because this is the base around which we're basically running this whole report. So the we're 5 projects came in for this period, and then we're kind of breaking them down based on different metrics here. So we're going to show that 5 down here. The problem is it would get a little confusing, because then if you click on this, like there's no way to see which ones were the converted ones, which ones were the ones that were still in lead. So the thing I plan to do in sort of the next round of updates is some ability to click on each one of these and have it pop up what those are. That would be the goal of the next one. So it's super clear. Um, and to be able to break down exactly what those are, and ideally be able to do something with those, rather than just be a list of names, to be able to somehow move them or tag them, or do something with them. That's kind of the next step, to sort of connect all this together. And then when we have the broadcast feature, which we will have down the road, then ideally it would also funnel into that. So the what would be really nice is to be able to look at, okay, we have um 3 leads that were not converted. Let's tag all of them and put them in a segment that we can then send something from the broadcast out to. So we could broadcast out some sort of special, or something just to that number of users. That's definitely
so
something down the road.
yeah, so right now we just know there's only three, and if we have, X amount of jobs, it may take some time to just go through each one and try to find if that's the one or not. Yeah.
Right now. Yeah. There might be the short. I mean, you tell me if this would be valuable or if this would be confusing. Would it be helpful to at least know what the total 5 are, and then you can at least narrow down your search to those 5? The reason I took that out is just because it wasn't clear what that list of it was down here underneath. It just wasn't. See, it didn't seem clear what that list of projects was, but that is something I could potentially add back.
Yeah, what if the list below would change based on the button you're clicking on here in this view?
Uh,
Like new leads 5, then you click on converted, it would drop down and just show you the 2 that were converted.
that would be nice, but that's the thing that's going to take a lot more time.
Yeah.
But what would take me less time and would allow me to get something out fast would be just to keep, because I already have this list here. These are not being calculated. Like I don't have 2 somewhere that I can just show. It's
Mhm.
doing the math and spitting out a number, because it's a lot faster. So
Yeah, I think if you have, 400 new leads and you have ones that convert, it'd be hard to track that down. But just based on this example,
yeah,
just seeing 5, it would be so quick to chase down the 2
yeah,
because you're not bringing it. So you already know kind of based on what your activity is and involvement that you can just quickly pick them out.
yeah. So there's
You see,
so
that might
many
be a little
numbers
harder.
there. That's a lot harder. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I want that's good feedback. These will get better and better over time. The number one priority that we wanted to do with just getting these to where they are now was making it so that you could pretty clearly look at conversion rate. So you just know where you're at conversion rate wise, and then also close rate, your gross profit margin, like these really, really important metrics that people are really bad at tracking. We want to just make that as easy to track as possible. Uh, Definitely like the next kind of iteration of this is, okay, how do we help you be as actionable as possible with that data? And like, how do we expose exactly what those are, what those projects are, and help you, run campaigns or broadcast to them. Um, So that will be, there's going to have to be a big overhaul in this again here in the future, but this is where we're at today. Um, but so yeah, do you think that it would be better than what I have here, just to be able to have a list of, for example, all new leads? underneath, like to at least have that?
Yeah, because then you could plan your marketing activities for the next quarter based on remaining leads. So like right now, it's January, nothing's happening, especially here in Denver.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to plan my marketing for Q1 or even Q2, when everything thaws out and materials arrive here, I can start planning on some sort of marketing which that was most effective to bring in those two that converted, go back to the three
Yeah.
and try to rehash that. So that's where it might be effective there.
So in the short run, I'm not going to be able to expose like this 52. That's not a list I have that I can't, it's
Right.
because it's all being calculated mathematically. It's just numbers. It's not actual projects at this stage. What I do have is the total 84 here. I have the total 84 that I could expose. Is it useful for me to go ahead and expose the 84 because that's all I have? Or is it better just to wait until I'm actually able to expose each one of these individually?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And even so, right now, we have 84 new leads just from May 30th to today. So we could even go through all these and fine tune that and maybe just do gutters or maybe just do roofing or maybe just do zip
See.
codes and kind of go there and make that a little easier and weed out those.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'll work on that then. I'll just work on it where it exposes the overall list so that that's accessible, and then uh that I'll add that to the list for the next round of improvements down the road, which I mean realistically probably won't be till the end of the summer at the soonest, but to be able to expose like each individual thing, but I'll get that top line list. And the same thing for sales. So like one in period. I believe it'd be one in period. That might be I might have that to be able to expose. Um, but yeah, I'll work on that. All right. Any other questions? Kyla?
No, I'm just excited for this because I'm in control of the leads and everything and keeping track. So this will make my life a little easier.
Great. It's good to hear. I'm glad. Um, but yeah, okay. Well, cool. Thanks for that feedback, Brian. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I'll see what I can do. I might once I get in there and I'm looking at just exposing this, maybe it won't be as much work as I'm thinking it's going to be to expose these, but I'll regardless it'll get added to the list for the future. So, all right. So we will wrap it up there. Thanks guys. And we'll see you next week.